For over 40 years, challenged children have had a hand to hold on to, a hand that reaches out to kids who have been abused, neglected, or separated. Since 1959, the Lee and Beulah Moor Children's Home has provided compassion and courage to children in need of care and support, enriching the mind and spirit of the child while teaching, counseling, and preparing them for a better life. This is the gift given by the late Lee Moor and his wife Beulah to the children of El Paso. This is the Lee and Beulah Moor Children's Home, providing basic residential care, foster care, adoption service, post-adoptive counseling, and counseling for families and children.
The Lee and Beulah Moor Children's Home is a 24-hour basic residential child care program. We serve children from the ages of birth all the way to 18. We have our residential program here at Cliff Drive, and we have our foster homes in the community that we license and supervise. The foster homes are independent, but we monitor, we license, and we supervise them. And they have children typically younger in age that benefit from a small family setting. And foster parents come in and decide to share their homes and their lives and their hearts with these children and take them into their home. The children go to school, public school in their neighborhoods, and become a part of the community. It's our community-based child care solution. Some of the reasons children might come into placement is they're being raised by perhaps a grandparent, and the grandparent becomes too elderly or infirm to meet the child's needs on a day-to-day basis, but want to have involvement in their lives. Sometimes children are victims of abuse and neglect and need a refuge, a safe place from those situations. Sometimes children come to us, they call us on their own and say they're not safe in their environments, and we reach out and help the families in that way. Sometimes, we have families that are just homeless and have lost jobs and cannot provide financially for their children for a time. Our goal is reunification. Our primary goal is to get children back to these families, so we work real hard with the families while the children are in care with us so that can happen.
Lee Moor was a farmer, a rancher, an industrialist, and a family man. Little did he know how big his family would become when he established the $13 million trust that would endow the children's home to be built after he and his wife's death. Praise would not be one of the things Lee Moor sought.
Lee and Beulah Moor came to El Paso. He had come first because he had TB, and they both had been together down in Hillsboro, Texas. He worked for the railroad for many years until he was about 27 or 8 years old. He kept getting worse, more and more sick. So the doctors diagnosed him with TB, which was extremely common in those days. And he said, you need to go to a high, dry climate and sleep outdoors and drink goat's milk. And that's all I can tell you to do. Between High Rolls and Alamogordo, there was a farm. And these people, he came to the door and asked them if he could live in their barn. Everybody was scared to death to let you come near. Everyone knew how contagious it was. So they said, yes, he could live in the barn. And they had goats, so he could milk the goats and drink the milk. And the lady provided him with food, but she'd bring it almost like a prisoner, and leave it and then back off. So he managed to live there for quite a while, maybe a year. And finally, he felt strong enough that he was examined again and declared free of TB. So he wrote to Beulah and asked her to marry him. And they were married by a judge in El Paso, April 18th, 1900. And then he had met someone who had some teams of mules, like 200 mules, and Fresnos that they scraped behind the mule. That's how they did construction work in those days, building streets. El Paso needed streets badly, and there was a new area going in called Government Hill. So he and this man put in the streets, and that's how he got started in contracting. And they had as many as 150 or 200 men at times building roads. They did railroad. They double-tracked the Santa Fe all the way to California. They did a lot of road work out across the desert that had never been done before.
Lee and Beulah Moor acquired some undeveloped land on River Street in El Paso, where they would build several homes. One they would call their own for the rest of their lives. Both fond of children, Beulah would never bear her own. But their lives brightened up the day Betty Lee came along and changed them forever.
A woman had come to them one day and said, I have this baby that I want to place with somebody. Do you know anyone? And they said, well, go up and talk to the Lee and Beulah Moor. Talk to them. So she came to the house. My mother happened to be out that day shopping, but my Aunt Minnie was there, so she told me about it. The lady came to the door and she said, well, yes, come in. I know that the Moors are very interested. She had this little 16-day-old baby. So she came in and Mother arrived and Minnie said, Beulah, look what we have. And oh, well, of course, they were just all excited and happy. So my dad's lawyer, who was Mr. Thornton Hardy, arranged the paperwork so that it seemed that I was their child. I think both of them knew firsthand what it was like to be orphans. You see, Mother had neither father nor mother by the time she was 6. They had both died. She and her 3 siblings, who were in that generation of children, were farmed out to all of the relatives. Of course, I always felt so lucky that they were the ones that adopted me.
Lee Moor's legacy specified that each child chosen to live within the home would not be discriminated against due to race or religion, but would live well and comfortable while adequately supported and educated in home-like surroundings. From the first children in 1959 to date, over 15,000 lives have been changed by a caring staff and support services.
When a child arrives here, the first thing we try to do is welcome them into their new home. We want to make sure that they feel that this is, from the minute they walk in, that they feel it's a safe and loving, nurturing and positive environment. So they're welcomed by their group of peers in their cottage and by their cottage parent or their child care worker. And they're taken through the daily activities and welcomed in as part of the family. We employ either single or couples who we call child and youth care workers or cottage parents.
The role that the cottage parents play is almost like that of a parent. It involves from, making sure that children are safe. They are in charge of making appointments, making sure that children get their dental, their medical health, psychological needs met. They began with getting ready for school. Some children have chores in the mornings. They take care of those chores in the morning. They're off to school anywhere between 7:30 to 8 o'clock. Then children get back around 3:30. Those that are not involved in school activities, extracurricular activities. And then the afternoon routine begins by children attending tutoring here in our agency or attending our gymnasium.
We have a full-size gym where we play all kinds of sports, where we have different parties for the kids. Our outdoor stuff, we take them hiking. We have an indoor and an outdoor challenge course. These are tools that are used worldwide as like team building and leadership tools. Our outdoor challenge course is in 3 Rivers, New Mexico. So the kids get to go, on a little mini vacation once a year. The challenge course has several high elements and low elements, like a catwalk. We have a zip line. Having them involved in activities makes them more social. They get to know each other on a personal level. It's not just, doing homework and doing chores. No, this is fun time. So I think that once they become social and get to know each other and take ownership of different programs and stuff and of their facility, then that's when they get more comfortable, and that helps them feel at home.
One of the unique programs that Lee and Beulah Moor Children's Home offers is the opportunity to build families, to put families together. And the opportunity to do this is our adoption program. So we work with birth moms whose desire is to place their baby for adoption.
We also work with prospective adoptive family where we're gonna place the child with that family and working with the adoptee. And we cover all of the legal requirements, working with the birth parents, making sure that adoption placement is what they want with the child, and then working with the adoptive family, following up with them, making sure that the child's needs are being met.
We are just about the only resource in El Paso at this time that's doing agency-based adoptions, and so we're so proud of the many families that we've brought together and children that have come into their forever homes through the Beulah Moor Children's Home.
I'm blessed because I get to see it from beginning to end. It's a great feeling to see that, and what a loving and selfless act on the birth parents to give their child that opportunity. And then the adoptive parents are able to provide that opportunity for that child.
Sometimes children come to us in terms of education with many deficits. As you can imagine, if their basic needs aren't being met, and sometimes it's really hard to do that, the food, the clothing, the shelter, education sort of takes a back seat. So what we do here is we try to focus on everything that we can do to help them achieve success in school. And every afternoon between 4 and 7, we have certified teachers that come in and offer tutoring services to our children. So any deficits can be addressed, any additional enrichment-based, curriculum-based experiences that they need, help with science fair projects and so forth. And I think the most exciting thing is to see children who haven't been able to find success in the school setting really achieve that school success. They'll run in with their report cards and they'll show us their progress, and they are just so proud of themselves.
To see a child come in brand new, doesn't know anybody, and to see them change from, being introduced to someone and kind of shy, standoffish, and all of a sudden they're in charge of something. They're in charge of a day's activities, and you just see them take ownership. Their self-esteem gets better.
I love what I do. I love seeing the children succeed on what their goals are and what they want to accomplish in life. And not just with the children, but with their families as well. So when the children go back home and they've accomplished their goals, it's just a great thing to see.
The successes that kids experience while they're here at Lemoore is a blessing to me. Having the opportunity to see children come from a place where they feel hopeless to a place where they can't wait for the future to come their way I just don't have the words to say how great that makes me feel, and to be able to be a part of that.
It's success stories like these that give the Beulah Moor Children's Home the most joy, from staff and former residents themselves who had values instilled in their lives while living at the home.
For me, it was the safest, most stable time of my life up to then. And I started out angry, and I left a really different person.
The Moor Children's Home was certainly one of the most powerful experiences that I've ever had in my life. Prior to living there, my family was a mess.
Or what happened to me there was that I learned to trust in people again, and I learned to shed my anger and to just sort of be open back up to love.
I think my entire life turned around. I started making good grades in school, the structure, the stability that was offered to us. Looking back at it now, I can honestly say that, golly, I may not have had what I wanted, but I got everything I needed.
I've done a lot of things in my life, but I look back at Moor Children's Home and I think what an interesting place to have found pure love.
When we see a child come into our home and they're feeling scared and maybe lonely and unsure about their future, and then getting to witness them transition after a time here, being successful and feeling hopeful, there's just no better feeling than seeing that.
And what would Lee Moore himself feel, looking at the successes over the years?
Oh, I think he would be so astonished to see what it's grown into. Of course, with his experience up till then, he wouldn't have had any idea how much could be done for children in a town like this, in a city. He would have been very, very pleased and happy.
I don't know that there are, that I have the words that would be able to portray the kind of gratitude that I have. And in a way, I feel like it's my responsibility to give back, and that maybe by my giving back and having taken on, what they've given me, that maybe in that way, that maybe I could show them how much I appreciate what they've been able to do for me.
You were a Texas oil man. Don't know what you were thinking when you left the gift, but for me at least, it's my whole life.
Reach out to the Lee and Beulah Moor Children's Home.